All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, bringing you brand new interviews right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, support the channel, and find out when these great interviews are coming up. And if you want to ask questions of my guests, go down to the Patreon link in the description, pick the appropriate tier, and you can ask the questions of the guests. And maybe your questions will be better than mine. My guest today, G. Tom Mack. He has had such an incredible year, a career, not just a year, but career. And over 50 years in the music business, but he's probably best known to Vampire's World Round for the song Cry Little Sister from the Lost Boys soundtrack. But there's a lot of new things in the work, including two musicals. One, a Lost Boys story, which is a musical about the characters from the Lost Boys. And G. Tom is going to talk about that with us and a lot more right after this. Just wanna waste some time with you. Time to teach you good, be true. Nobody out there to waste time with you. Please welcome G. Tom Mack.
Well, hello. How's it going?
Hey, it's going good, G. I'm glad that you're able to join me. There's so much in your career, so we don't have time to get to everything. I want to definitely let people know about what's going on now. But first, I've got to say, I said in the intro, 50 years in the music industry. Some people can't last 50 minutes.
Well, I started at 5 years of age.
Mm-hmm. I hear. No, you look good. Yeah, you look good.
But yeah, I started, playing the pubs and doing all that stuff at about the age of 13. Clubs, what have you. I was in a band with members much older than me. They were all in their 18, 19. But I learned quickly. I was sort of had the passion going on at an early age. So, but yeah, it's been good to me. And I can't even begin. I don't know what it is. It's some people say it's a large amount of talent, and there's and others say it's a large amount of luck. Well, I think it's a bit of the both, really.
Yeah, it seems like the two have to go together. You can't have one without the other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Long before you were G. Tom Mack, you were Gerard Thomas McMahon, and you had quite the music career. You put out a lot of albums and worked with some amazing people. One of the ones that I find the most interesting is you sang vocals on a record by the band Zephyr at Electric Ladyland Studios in New York, Jimi Hendrix's famous.
You really researched, didn't you?
Yeah, but you don't hear many people speak about working with someone as great as Tommy Bolin, legendary guitar player who played with the James Gang and also played with Deep Purple. And can you tell me a little bit about working with him?
Well, Tommy and I met in Denver, Colorado. I was just fresh off, moved over here when I was at 12, 13, something like that. And I was already playing music, and then I had gone to play in Colorado, and Tommy and I met. Actually, he was playing a gig with a band called American Standard at the time. And I went to see, he was open, I can't remember. I think they were the opening act for some big act at Doors or something like that.
Wow.
And Tommy and I met and got on very well, and we ended up being roommates in a flat. And then we always threatened to work with one another. And then he got a gig offer from this, band Zephyr to play with them. And then they went on to get a record deal and doing all the touring stuff. But we made, when they made the album at Electric Lady Studios, which I think was their second record. So I was in New York at the time, and Eddie Kramer, who was the producer, asked me down to, I was at the studio hanging out, and they were all singing my praises about my vocals and stuff. So I ended up doing backing vocals on that album, which was quite fun. And then, we were hanging out for a good 2 or 3 weeks at the Chelsea Hotel.
Wow, nice.
That being Candy Gibbons and David Gibbons and Tommy and myself. So, yeah, it was a great experience. But the experience with Tommy was we were very tight. We became such good friends, and and confidants and what have you. And it was I was very sorry to see him go at a time that he did. We used to play a lot of gigs together with his band. He had a band called Energy, and then my band, at the time, was just called Gerard, and we got signed to Columbia or Epic Records at the time, and with the producer James William Garcia, who was a pretty big producer of Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears. It was kind of like an interesting match of a producer. But he came to a gig that Tommy and I were both doing, and he was there to see Tommy and ended up signing me. But it was, it was just interesting experience. It was sort of frick and frack, if you will. I was more like sort of a Bowie T-Rex kind of with R&B added to it at that time. And the record came out sounding a bit more like Chicago, which was rather strange. But that's how life begins when you have a career in music. Not always, but it did that way for me.
And I hear that story a lot. I talk to people every day. You hear a lot of that. Somebody got involved and somewhere it changed. Tragically, Tommy Bolin passed away at a young age from addiction.
Yeah, way too soon.
Yeah, and obviously would have continued to go on to great things. He was definitely one of these guitar players that everybody talked about.
No question about it. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because the bass player in his band, Stan Sheldon, who was my bass player early on, we all grew up together, and he was an incredible attribute to Tommy's band. He went on to be with Peter Frampton right around the time Frampton Comes Alive, and he's played with many different people. But we're still tight, and a few other members of that band.
Yeah, which
some of us have actually survived.
Well, and that's what I was thinking too. You have to be a survivor as well. That's definitely a part of.
I mean, it's not about surviving drugs. It is, but not in my case. I mean, I did them, but it wasn't like I got to a place where I needed any help. I just knew how to I knew when to get off the exit. Let's put it that way, and safely get home.
Yeah, and not enough. Not enough did. So I want to just talk about a couple more of the things before we get caught up. But also, you went and played bass for Jackson Browne on tour for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was early days. I mean, his first tour, and I was just come out to LA for the first time just to give it a go with my own career. And I was going into studio every night with this producer named Cy Mitchell back in the day, who, he was kind of a singles producer. He did Wishbone, Come and Get Your Love, and Just Give Me Some Kind of Sign, Girl. Well, who was that by? Brooke Benton or something like that. But anyway, he took a liking to my eclecticness because he wanted to make more of a, get into more of a, I don't know, eclectic, whatever that is to anybody and everybody. But it didn't quite work. And then David Lindley, who was my next door neighbor, said, "Would you like to come out and audition for Jackson?" And Jackson Browne, because he was working with him, he had just done that album, the first album. And so I did. I could play bass, piano, guitar, so it was just a sort of a low-key little radio tour, or not radio tour, but a promo tour. But it was, got paid some money and was able to get back and carry on with my own career. But Jackson, he's a great friend to this day.
Yeah, another cool thing. I was saying to you before we got started, I love people who have these really deep careers. People may know you for the Lost Boys soundtrack, but there is so much to your career, and you've reinvented it. And I think, like you said, being eclectic is one of the things that has kept you so sought after with movies and television and things. Before we jump into that, though, people who watch this show, they love Kiss. And that Kiss fans are the most passionate fans in the world. And they want to know every detail about Kiss.
They do. First of all, it was very unusual, unorthodox, if you will, for Kiss to record anybody else's songs. I mean, they wrote their own songs. And when Vinnie Poncia, who was producing the Unmasked album, had asked me, he wanted to produce what would be my second album. And Vinnie, a great guy. And we were sitting down and I was playing him a bunch of tunes, playing him cassettes of songs. He wanted to hear everything. to choose songs from what would be my album at the time. And I played Is That You for him. He said, you don't, because I just didn't think it worked in the concept of my Blue Roo album. So I just basically said, no, I'm not going to use it. It's a bit too AC/DC for what I'm doing. And he said, mind if I play it for Kiss? And I said, I thought it was quite unusual. But then he said they need a single and they don't have one. So we took the tape away, and about a week later, he rang, or rather, I think he rang me up. Yeah, he rang me up. He said, the guys love it. We're cutting it. And then the next call was on my little answer machine, Gene and Paul saying, thank you so much. And they were playing their version of it in the back, their cover of it in the background. And, but yeah, it was a really cool thing to have happened. I didn't really think much of it at the time, that it's much of it in the sense of like, I was honored that they did it. But I was just sort of thrown in this world of doing songs for movies and my own career. And but yeah, it was also a great relationship builder with those guys as well. But to your point, the fans, oh my God, they do know every detail. And I think it's a bit confusing to a lot of people when they see Gerard McMahon on earlier records. But I changed my name in 2000 because I got so tired of people. But you pronounce my name properly, thank you.
Yes.
But they go Gerald or Jerry, McMahon, and I don't know. I didn't think it would be that difficult of a name to pronounce, but apparently, in this country, it is. In the UK, where I'm from, and Ireland, it's a little bit different. They say Gerard McMahon. There's no H pronounced, rather in it. So I think it's just, anyway, it's G. Tom Mac. It made it a lot easier for people, and people have, over the last 20 years have figured it out, or some have.
And you've reinvented yourself with that as well. You've kept your image, and you're doing something a little bit different. And I think that G. Tom Mac appeals to the people who might not have known the Gerard records and those type of things.
Right.
The nickname G comes from your friend Roger Daltrey. Is that true?
Right. When I was writing and producing Roger's Rocks in the Head album, he was always called. He said, I can't. He would call me Gerard, and then other people were calling Gerard and all of this other pronunciation. He said, oh bollocks, I'm just going to call you G. And I'm going like, yeah, that's good. And that stuck with me. And then I made an album a few years later called I just called it G. Tom Mac. And nobody knew who G. Tom Mac was. I was signed to DreamWorks at the time, but that particular album was licensed in so many different TV shows. One of the songs called Half was closed out the season of Scrubs, the TV series, time, and it played for like 2.5 minutes. And that became like, it sold 130, well, when downloads were happening, it did like 163,000 downloads within a week's time. And so that kind of put that album on the map. But it was in all these shows, Roswell, Felicity, I mean, the list goes on, so many different television shows. But it was a new dawning of G. Tom Mac. And nobody realized, even though I did another version of Cry Little Sister on that, nobody realized that they just thought I was doing a cover of the Lost Boys. Because that's what that soundtrack was always, it was always like, oh, the Lost Boys theme song. It was never a name attached to it.
Yeah, Sisters of Mercy.
And I repronounced my name on that album, Gerard McMahon, McMann. I respelt the last name so people could properly. And it's, but it didn't matter. It was always referred to as the Lost Boys song.
Yes, the Lost Boys song.
I had been in and out of career. I mean, at that point, making Lost Boys, I was producing, I was working with Carly Simon. I was working with this one, that one, Roger Daltrey, Robert Plant. And I was kind of enjoying that because I'd made 3 albums and they were always the critics' darling, but they weren't really well promoted. So I just got kind of fed up with it all and just kept writing. And I was kind of called, people liked my eclecticness, other artists. So that's how I got, they but Cry Little Sister definitely caught the ear of Robert Plant, and
Wow.
everything sort of went on from there, you know. Because
Well,
Roger and Robert were managed by Trinifour Management, which Zeppelin and the Who both were managed by. So that's
yeah,
how I met Roger.
not bad company. You kind of were this secret weapon in a sense. People who had influence were watching you, and we talk about you come out to Los Angeles and you put on a showcase to sort of place more songs and things. And some of the people who were having their eyes on you, David Geffen, Joel
Yeah,
Schumacher, who later directs The Lost Boys, Cameron Crowe, and Jerry Bruckheimer, who hires you right away for a movie called Defiance.
right.
And
Yeah.
these are some pretty major people to be seen.
Well, considering when I moved to Los Angeles, I was sleeping on a couch of a mate of mine, and then after a while, that gets a bit, not only old for him but for me. And even though he was very cool about it, I had enough money. I finally got myself a flat, and or yeah, I guess it was a duplex or triplex thing in North Hollywood. And then I was making the rounds, and I was running out of money because I saved up enough money to be here at the time. And then my manager at the time basically knew Jerry Bruckheimer, had worked with him, and he played him some of my material, and he said, "Well, have him write. I need a theme song for this movie called Defiance." So I wrote this song, Bad Times, and I made demos of that. I made a demo of that song to give him the gist of what I had a chance to see the film, and he said, "I love it. Have him write me 4 more songs. This is this vibe of the film." And so I kept singing the demos, and he wanted a very testosterone-y, Springsteen-esque, Bob Seger kind of vocal. So I've always been pretty good at mimicking and mocking, artists. So I basically put that sort of in my voice, and it became, I don't think I've ever done before, but anyway, so I turned it in, and so Jerry says, "Hey, good to go on the budget. Good to go on the budget for the soundtrack." I said, "But Jerry, who are we going to get to sing this stuff?" He said, "What do you mean? You're going to sing it?" I'm going like, "That's not my real voice." And he goes, "Well, it is now for this movie." And because they test screened it and everything, I'm going like, "Oh my God." So I did my Springsteen Bob Seger voice, and that movie came out under Defiance, music by Gerard McMahon, songs by anyway. And one thing led to another. David Geffen had heard some of my real voice material and wanted to sign me as an artist to the newly Geffen Records at the time. And that's in and around the time that Kiss recorded "Is That You?" And I was kind of getting to the band, the R&B group did a version of "Bad Times" from my theme song from Defiance. So I got a bit of a buzz, Cameron Crowe, all these people were coming to my gigs, and they started to use my songs in films or have me write a song for a film. So that went on. And
some great films. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, All the
yeah.
Right Moves. Some of these are very big 80s iconic movies that you have music in.
Well, it was interesting the other day, about 2 weeks ago, Bob Lefspeth, you know who I'm talking about,
Yes.
the journalist. Did I pronounce his name right? It doesn't matter.
I
Anyway, he keyed in on, he wrote a whole article on my song, "Look in Your Eyes" from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, saying, "This is one of the best songs on a soundtrack, this, that, and the other." He broke it down, Gerard McMahon. And he said, "It's too bad that this artist, he peaked pretty much with this song on the soundtrack." And I'm going like, "Did you not do your journalism research?" I thought to myself.
No.
I've yet to reach out to him, but I thought that, in case anybody doesn't know, Bob is like the premier. Everybody in the industry listens to him because he's got a sort of golden brain voice about where music's at and where it might be going and where it's from. but it was just, I had such a good laugh over it, you know, because there was no, I was like going, yeah, did my career end then? And he didn't even talk about Cry Little Sister, didn't even talk about, you know, the various other things up to now. I mean, God, that
Yeah.
was sort of the least successful thing, even though I thought it would have been. I mean, it sold 5 million copies, but, you know,
Well, there
it
was
was
so much music.
everybody that was noticeable but me.
Yeah. Well, there was right. There was so much music on that soundtrack
Oh,
that it's
yeah.
hard to get lost in that shuffle.
Stevie Nicks, Don Henley, Joe Walsh, this, et cetera, et cetera. Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But so now people are starting to know to look for you for music. You're back living in New York City. So the late Joel Schumacher.
Reached out to me. He had already known my work. We had met once before, and I was living in New York at the time. And so I got a ring from him saying, hey, I would love you to write a theme song for my new film. It's a vampire movie. It's called Lost Boys. And I said, great, I'd love to take a look at it and get a vibe. And he said, well, we're still shooting, but I thought maybe if I sent you a script, you'd get inspiration from just reading it. And I said, well, never really done that before, but I'll give it a go. I mean, I've always been able to look at the film, you know. And he sent the script on to me, and I read it one night, and I said, wow, this is so cool. I loved where horror and humor meet in the middle. And I got up the next day, and I started going to my piano, came up with a couple of ideas, kind of got the verse going, and thought, well, I've got a vibe, and went up to my studio, and before you knew it, I got into my studio, and a mate of mine was doing this beat in the next room, and I'm going, oh, that's cool. Doom, do, 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 do. It was a little bit different, and I said, hey, what is this? He said, oh, I'm working on a jingle, and I said, don't use this. Let me take this. And he was doing a jingle, like a commercial. Mm-hmm. And I took a little bit of that, and it was just perfect for where I was going. And then before you knew it, I wrote the chorus within like a half hour's time. And it was just synergy all happening. And I made a demo that day. I finished up the song and made a demo that night, sent it off to Joel on a cassette. And he called 3 days later, just saying, how did you know? And he said, this is the theme song to my film. And I said, wow. And to do something without looking at a film to get a vibe was somewhat unheard of, you know, because you want to get that sort of look of things. I don't think I would have written Cry Little Sister. I've said this before, had it not been for just my own imagination reading the script. You know how you read a book, mm-hmm. and you get the vibe of like what's going on in your head, you know, the visuals rather. So anyway, that's how that happened. And Joel and I built a fantastic relationship over the years as a result of that. You know, so.
You couldn't imagine that movie without that song. It fits so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fits so well. I love a good songwriting story. And I've heard you talk about the details of that when you left your house, you have the idea. And by the time you got to your studio, you're going up 6th Avenue. It's gelling.
Yeah. I was in a cab. I'll never forget it. I was trying to remember. I started feeling the melody, and I had my Walkman with me, another cassette device. And I was just pressing it, and this guy was playing some Arabic music in the car. I said, would you mind turning that down a bit? And he looked at me like, and so I started humming melody into my Walkman, and then got to the studio. It just came together within the lyrics, you know, weren't completely written, but they seemed to come rather quickly as well. But yeah, it was I love it when things like that happen, you know, just out of nowhere.
Peter Frampton talks about writing his 2 biggest hits in the same day before noon. He says, I've been waiting my lifetime to have another day like that, you know.
Yeah. Isn't that true, though? Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what a hit is. I've written songs that I never thought would ever, you know, reach the light of day, and then they become a top 5 record, you know. And
And Cry
Yeah.
Little Sister has taken on a life of itself. In a lot of ways, it's bigger than the movie because people, you are embraced by goths and vampires and metal fans. All genres of music have covered
Yeah,
that song.
it's unbelievable the amount back when you actually got real mail in the post. Atlantic Records called me one time and said, "Hey, we have two bagfuls of mail for you that are obviously from fans." And I'm going like, "Wow!" So I went up there. They said, "Could you come up and get them because we're going to have to throw them out?" So I went up and got them with my. I was just working on Roger Daltrey's album at the time. Must have been '92, and I there were two big duffel bags of mail, and I'm going like, "This is all for me?" And they said, "Yep." And it was from around the world. And we just started opening up letter at a time. And there was a lot of sort of the same thing. Thank you for writing a great song. But there were things my sister died to your song. If you're ever having a bad day, let's know that she went off into the heaven or universe with your song in her. And it was both of our favorite songs. I mean, heartbreaking ones, I've actually posted a bunch this year about, 20 of them. It was so difficult and mind you, I didn't go through all of them either, because some of them were written in Japanese, and some of them, they thought that I might have gone out and got a translator, apparently. But I should have. But yeah, it was all walks of life, the crazy thing is, everybody from Shaquille O'Neal, which is Cry Little Sister is his favorite song of all time. He publicly broadcasted it at the halftime of the NBA.
Wow.
And yeah, it was. I've got the clip too. But I mean, and from Marilyn Manson doing a cover of it. And
Marilyn Manson version is huge. He was closing his shows with it. It couldn't have fit him better. His audience, they already love that movie and that song.
Right.
Even bigger, Eminem samples the song. It's for a Grammy.
He loved the song. He used to play it he said, I used to play his song every day, and it was just a motivator. He said, and then so many people were always going on about, it's the hip hop world has embraced it. And I know that, from every rapper Ice Cube, I wrote the theme song to the Players Club, but he didn't know who I was because I was G-Tom Mac at this point. And he thought that I was a brother. And I wrote the theme song to his movie, which was totally R&B, hip hop. And we got Casey and JoJo to come in and sing it. So, but yeah, he thought I was, I said, I am a brother from another mother.
Well, and you're a fan of hip hop music as well.
I've been a fan of hip hop for the long. Let's just start here. R&B, hip hop, classic R&B, the likes of James Brown, all the way into Prince, you name it. That was sort of, I attempted to go down that road because I've got an ability to, I've got that sort of blue-eyed soul thing going on. But, I just thought like, hey, I'll just stay with this. I'm diversified enough. And I need to just stay with what, at least as an artist, to what I do. And I'm passionate about,
Yeah, and it shows because you've built this audience now. You write the song 86, the movie comes out in 87. It does incredibly well on VHS and DVD. It does good in theaters, but the cult following happens later.
Yeah, you're so right about that, Jason. It wasn't, we didn't have, certainly from the late 80s when the film came out and when it went to VHS and all of that stuff, and DVD, all we knew is that it's obviously selling because my royalty checks from the soundtrack were extraordinary, but it kept selling. And so, but by the time everything kicked in, I found out, who was it? Kiefer said, the DVD, it's the Warner Brothers biggest selling or number 5 selling DVD of all times. And I thought, wow, but nobody knew where to find me. It was sort of like, then came Kazaa and Napster, and then when they went wild with everything that was free, it was "Cry Little Sister" by Sisters of Mercy. They labeled it that, and I was going like, oh my God. And then it wasn't until, and then when YouTube came along, there were about 50 early days. There was about 50 YouTube posts with "Cry Little Sister" on it. This is before YouTube became more, a popular platform. And I got in touch with all the people that had these their channels with my song, and just said, hey, it's not Sisters of Mercy. And then I'm going, oh my God, I'm G. Tom Mack. So they're going to say, no, you're not. You're not the guy that did it. And then I had to prove myself to every one of them. And they go, oh my God, yes, of course, we'll change it, So, but it was, yeah, I mean, sort of changing my name was somewhat of an artist suicide.
Yes, I can understand.
But I did resurrect.
Yes, and then brought a new life to the song. Your redone version, it's sort of an industrial style that I think is
you
great.
mean the one I did when Warner's asked me if I'd do a version, I said I want to complete for, what was it, The Tribe? Yeah, the straight to DVD
sequel, yeah,
installment. Don't get me started on that. But they did want me to they wanted to have some validation, so I did it, and yeah, I had fun doing that. It was sort of a bit on the Nine Inch Nails side, but I love Trent, and he's been a fan of mine, and I'm a big fan of his.
I think it fit very well. And of course, yes, it has that vibe, but I think it was right for the time. And I think people enjoy hearing a different version of it. And maybe that also reaches a younger audience.
Well, I've been able also, when HBO asked me to had me do a version for True Blood, I thought, well, this could be interesting. So I took it and made it very bluesy, and a bluesy version. And we shot a video of that as well. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it was fun taking that version, just applying it to that sort of New Orleans Southern thing. And I proved to myself that, wow, this song can really be done many different ways, but that was fun doing it that way as well.
You never could have known that you were going to become the hero to goth kids everywhere. You appear at these...
Didn't know that. I mean, I've always loved a lot of goth music, Bauhaus, all of that stuff. The real good quality ones. And
you appear at these.
The Cure were big, I'm a big fan of them. I like Bob's work, but I've never been like one thing,
Right.
It's a blessing and a curse. I mean, it certainly has made me a lot of good royalties, being able to write for the many different artists that have recorded my songs, and artists that I'm not necessarily, big. I say I was respectful, but not big fans of. I mean, I actually work with the band Chicago, and I'm very respectful of what they are, and they've done some good songs. But I wrote 3 songs for them. They wanted to work with me, and then I turn around and work with the Spinners.
Yeah, it's
and which was. They thought I was black too because of the way I wrote in that vein, and they heard some songs, and rather Jerry Greenberg had gotten the songs, who was their A&R guy at the time, and so I went in and wrote and produced them, and I can't even remember what that album was, but it's the life of a songwriter. But I always equate myself to being like an actor, that plays a role. Okay,
you adapt.
Be this guy. I'm going to be this band or that artist, and so I take on the role and become that. And somebody, a very famous actor, once said to me, said, "You're kind of the Meryl Streep of singers and songwriters." And I'm going like, "What do you mean?" And then I thought, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah.
So that's why I bring up the analogy.
Yeah. And so, and it's so great that you have that. But like I was saying, you also get to go out and do these conventions and horror movie things and
Yeah,
Lost Boys.
love it.
And so it's so great that you get to go out and play some rock music in addition to the other things you do and get to play for a live audience. One of the
Yeah.
funny things is that, you performed it so many times, but you performed the song with Corey Feldman. He's come on.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, he performed it with me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be cheeky, but yeah, I do mean to be cheeky. No, I mean, it's just, but I did, it was I think it was in some, I can't remember where it was. They all become a blur up at these sort of Comic-Con events. And he had asked me if I wouldn't mind if he came up and sang in the choruses with me.
With his
children's choir, with his entourage of angels, of these very stripped down girls he had with him. So I said, yeah, let's have a, why not? Why not give them what they didn't pay for?
It's a very fun video though, and he does perform the song in his own
he does
music career, but it's I think people are happy to see it.
Let's go lightly on the boy.
Yes, he's got enough.
He's still learning and growing,
But then on top of that, you play People Are Strange by the Doors with Corey Haim, the late Corey Haim.
Yeah, that was good fun, I got to say, because he was just getting into a sobriety mode, and it was like I was helping him. I never met anybody during the time. I couldn't when Lost Boys took the premiere here in LA, because I was in London at the time working. I can't remember what I was doing, but I couldn't go to the premiere because I was not there, obviously. And so I met Corey in 2009 at another, I think it was Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I love that gig. It was great. And it was the first time I'd ever done a horror convention. And I met Corey and Brooke McCarter and all the other guys, who were wonderful, by the way. I mean, Brooke was sensational. He was an incredible drummer, percussionist, and we ended up going on the road together a lot, just the two of us. Mm-hmm. And but Corey, we were just kind of mucking around in my suite at the hotel, and I was hearing him sing something. I said, well, we should do People Are Strange together. Anyway, but Corey had a really cool little voice, and I just said, why don't we do something on stage? And he was just said, God, really? And I thought, yeah. And so we worked up People Are Strange, and it went really well the first time, and then we did it many other Comic-Cons after that.
I thought
everybody loved it. He was a dear heart. He was a very blessed human being with his talent, and it's too bad that he had to go so soon.
Yeah, and another definitely sad loss. He came across pretty musical. When I was watching the video, I thought he could stay in key, and he was good at what he was doing.
Yeah, we wrote a song together called Mend Me as well, which was sort of a healing song for him. And during the time I was helping him, get better. And it was great. It was a really wonderful period of time of just doing all of that early days and of the conventions with him included, so it was really cool.
Yeah. So Lost Boys obviously becomes a very important part of your life. There's no way that you could have known in 1987 that I'll be talking about this for the next 35 years. And
I thought they'd be talking about Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. And then it was like, mind you, it did well, but this is iconic, when I wrote that song, what was crazy about it was I thought, well, I like it. And if they don't, well, then that's happened before. Not that they don't like it, it's just maybe it didn't work, But they, meaning Joel Schumacher and Richard Donner, loved what it was. And, the record company Atlantic wanted somebody else to sing it because they wanted marquee value. And Joel said, there's no way that's going to happen because this is the voice of my film. And not only the song, but the voice, the actual, Gerard voice. So, thanks for Joel and the late Richard Donner for having my back.
Yeah, for sure.
Joe was amazing through all of it. You know, I remember going out to see the film. He wanted me to come out and just be there as they start putting music in. And I remember going like, oh my God, this film looks nothing like what I thought it was when I was writing Cry Little Sister. And it was just, he had so many spots. He was really working it through the film, which is fine because it is the theme of the movie. But in the beginning, I remember making a remark, why don't you take my voice out? And my manager was there with me at the time. Take my voice out and just have it be the choir and the track. And they all looked at me like, are you daft? And and then they did it. And then it was like, wow, we get it. Because it just meant so much more with those boys' choir. And I said, the payoff will be in the middle of the film with Michael and Star, where you get to see the sort of triangle of David, I mean Kiefer's character,
Yeah.
and where you see that montage happen. So it was, you know, I don't want to take a lot of credit. Joe did a great job in placing the song and the score in many different places. But it was remarkable. I don't think, like I said earlier, I don't think I would have written that song.
Had you seen it?
In the film, right? Yeah. And Joel, by the way, to his credit, was just so, you know, we threatened to work together again, but our paths were just not crossing at the right time.
How many times do people ask you what Blind Boys Don't Lie means?
Oh, about 14 million.
What's the stock answer?
Well, you don't know. Blind boys meaning bats and vampire, you know, but more importantly, one without a soul. That's what it meant to me.
No, and that's right, because everyone else can interpret it their way. The song is clever in the sense that you don't mention vampires, obviously.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's about finding your family, your tribe. That's what the song's really about. When I read that script, and that's what I got from it, you know. David found his tribe with the other three guys. And then you had Star, and you had Laddie, who's in my musical 1,000 years old. And at that age, he never got past that.
Right.
So he was, I don't want to get into the musical part of it, but it's a backstory, and it's got, you know, how it all came together, how they all came together. So.
Well, now, you said you don't want to talk about the musical, but we got to talk about the musical.
Well, of course we do, but I can't give you the story away.
No, we don't want to give away the story, but we do want to give people a taste, and we do want to discuss it. So first of all, A Lost Boys Story, the musical, is available now. So people can go to Spotify.
Well, the soundtrack's of it. The soundtrack,
yes, the music, right. You have to wait to see it. But so the great thing about this is, and I've heard it, and it's really enjoyable, and you can see clips on YouTube as well. You have singles. The great thing is that by the time this plays live, performs, people will know these songs, and that's a great investment.
Well, I thought that to be a good idea, and I stole it from Stephen Sondheim and Leonard Bernstein, where they said to the record label, why don't we put this out before West Side Story goes to, and they go, well, we don't know if it's going to be a hit. And they said, I think come see our previews. And they did that. And I don't have the option to show previews because we got up to hitting the ball out of the park, and then we had this little thing called a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know? So it remains to be seen. I do know this, it's going to be on hold for a while because I had a meeting with Warner Brothers, and they are now, and I know the fans are not going to take this too lightly, but they're making a reboot of Lost Boys. And I must say, it got a great director on board, John Entwistle, who is not resurrected from the dead.
Yeah, not from the Who.
So, but I think the film, listen, there's nothing you can do to make that film be less iconic and better than it is for that film. But let's give it a chance, you know, and see where it can go with what they do.
I think so.
You know, I know that I'm attached to it because of my song, and you know, as the old story goes, you can't have lost boys without cry little sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I've gotten used to that one. But yeah, I mean, anyway, I don't want to go down that road.
The
But I do
song is like
feel,
the song is like a vampire as well. It also doesn't age. People still
I
love it.
know, it's immortal, right?
Immortal for sure. So one of the questions that I had when I heard that you were first working on this musical is, do you have to go to Warner, who made the movie, and do you have to go to the two people who created the characters, and do you have to get permission? Do you have to license? How
Oh,
does it
yeah.
work?
Yeah, of course. I mean, going, are you talking about the song or are
I'm
you
talking
talking
about for the
about
musical.
the musical? Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's, that's their property. But it was crazy in the beginning of it because they didn't know. They thought, do we own the theatrical property of this? And I thought, well, you're Warner Brothers, you should know this. And it didn't take long. Then they realized that Richard Donner and his wife, Lauren Schuler, owned the theatrical rights to do. They did that with when Richard was very hot with Lethal Weapons and everything he was doing at Warner Brothers. He asked for theatrical rights, as a good businessman would, and they let him have it. And because they wanted to keep him there, because he was a very important director first of all, and producer. So he was making them a ton of money. So they had it, and then we went through all of that stuff, and then you but anyway, then I had to, then there's the theatrical. I'm trying to give you an edited version of it because it's bloody well long when you go into rights and all that stuff. But we're heading down the road, and we're good. So but for now, it's going to be a bit of a time before that hits the stage. So, but I'm working on another musical which I got offered because this producer named Paul Brooks, who produced My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Pitch Perfect 1, 2, 3, and now 4, who I worked with before. He said, "Why don't you write me a musical?" And
Now, is this is Don't You Forget About Me, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah, and
I
I was fortunate to hear some of these tracks as well. And what a fun idea to take these great things from the '80s and these movies and put it into a musical.
Well, Paul said I said, "Well, what kind of thing are you thinking about for me? What you want me to write?" And he said, "Something about the '80s. Write what you know." And I love Paul because his sensibility. I love him as a person, but I love his sensibilities as far as he's such a good sounding board. He's not going to tell you what to do, but he breaks the script down like nobody can. And his notes are always spot on. And so I came up with this idea about, this was the summer before last, and I came up with this idea to have it be about 8 different characters in the pen pal world of the '80s, where you have a high school in London, a high school in New York, and a high school in LA. It's a coming of age film in the '80s, but it's a unique one is that all these people meet in their social media of pen pals, which took forever they meet people they'd never known before. And mind you, pen pals have been going on in the '70s and I think in the '60s as well. In fact, I know it started in the '50s actually in Norway, because I had to do my research on that. So I started thinking this could be a great way of 8 different people, all different denominations, Black, white, Asian, and Hispanic, and they come together they don't know it, but they come together for a real cause in their lives. And how they all come together is quite remarkable. I can't get into that, but it's, I've had the most fun I've ever had doing this musical because it has its darkness in it and it has its jubilant lightness to it, and coming out. This is a lot of different. The characters are so wonderful to work with, and I'm working with Charles Watson, who works with Ridley Scott, a brilliant screenwriter. So this one is to be made for the screen, much like La La Land was made, and it's going to and then hopefully it'll turn into the stage as well. But that's where we're going with that. But I really enjoyed. It was such a departure from Lost Boys, but Lost Boys, you can study musical theater all you want, which I did, but once you get into it, that's when it becomes bloody well hard, difficult to figure how to get the characters to work, the rewrites, etc. But Lost Boys prepared me for doing this idea of a musical, which came out of my own head, as opposed to taking something and working that like Lost Boys.
Which really works out perfectly because, as you said, with the reboot and the property kind of going through some changes, well, you're so in the musical vibe now that to have this other project to push this one ahead. And again, people can still hear the Lost Boys music. Lost Boys Story is available. So you have something to whet your appetite.
Yeah. Spotify and all the streaming. It's on every. For those who are still downloading, and I'm surprised to see that people are downloading this A Lost Boys Story, the musical soundtrack. Yeah, so it's been actually doing really well. As people are paying attention to it and letting me know how much they love it, and asking me questions about Angels and Gold and what does that mean to the musical, and then there's Frog Bro Hero, which seems to be one everybody likes, and Long Hot Summer is pretty much the single off of it. And Cry Little Sister, I did it with an orchestra, and it came out quite well. I'm really pleased with how that happened.
I think people are going to enjoy this. The property had been lost a little bit. We touched on it briefly, but they made these sequels that just didn't resonate with the audience. And
well, it was basically a cash cow. They figured, all right, let's make these ones for $4 million a pop instead of $30 million, and because they could, and yeah, they were received okay in some areas, and then the hardcore fans just hated it, and but I'm not going to go down the road of that. People, it's a business, and I respect that. And, but.
Well, I think,
I'm not going to go there.
I understand. I think the fans, though, enjoy that you're telling and being a little bit more true to the characters and that story. And so
right.
I think that's good. It's brought life to that property. And then also, let's hope that the reboot will be good.
Well, I'll tell you something very interesting that happened along the way during the pandemic. I should say, the producers of A Lost Boys Story came up with an idea to do Mask, like something to do with the musical. So I said, well, what? And they said, find somebody that that can do some creative work, and we'll take care of them, whatever. And so I was scrolling around, and I came across this V Shadow Gallery, and I saw this painting of Kiefer. I mean, there's lots of them, but I just thought, wow, this is so good. And I made it my business to find out who did this. And it was this girl, Victoria Glightly, she goes by V Shadow Gallery. And I went on in her gallery to look at all of these different paintings. I've got, oh my God, this person is incredible. And so I got in touch with her, and I said, would you be available to do, can we commission you to do a mask? And she said, well, I don't really do mask, but I can, if you have an idea, I can work with it. And so she did, and she made this amazing mask, which we call Thou Shalt Not Die. Get it? The pandemic, COVID, okay. And she took a photo, from a photo of me, a photo of Kiefer, and put this magnificent, I don't have it in front of me, I wish I did, but
I saw it this morning, and I'll put it in here so that people can see it, and also put a link in the description so people can see it, because it is great.
You can see her work. I mean, not just the Lost Boys thing.
No, I scrolled all of it, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well,
and beautiful stuff.
Got a lot of fans now that are but it's just really, really cool work, and yeah, definitely check her out.
Yeah, and so we're going to have a link in the description for that, and we'll have links for to listen to the music to your website. There's a lot of things going on, and I think it's exciting that people are getting to relive it. And for some people, they're experiencing some of these things for the first time.
Right. Well, that's good too. I mean, my audience basically is between 16 and 35, with a few, predominantly, a lot of women, girls, women. It's same thing. Oh my God. It was a long day yesterday, and this is going to be a longer one working on this new musical. But to that point, where were we? Oh yeah.
No, we're just saying that a lot of your fans, there's younger people, but you're reaching a wide audience. You were saying 16 to 35. That might be the hardcore audience, but there's also people, Lost Boys, who are even older, and like myself, and who grew up seeing that movie and will always be part of it. Oh, and I'm one of those people who wanted to know who sang that damn song.
Right, exactly. Well, there's a large audience out there that have never seen the film and they know the song, and I've met them, and they come to the shows and they go, "Oh, never seen that movie," and I'm going like, "Oh my God!" So you paid your $35-40 to come and just hear one song? She said, "No, we've checked out your," I remember them saying, "We know the Thou Shalt Not Fall album because we heard of Cry Little Sister, but you've never seen Lost Boys." No, but they became fans because they knew, and that I put an album out in 2009 called Thou Shalt Not Fall, which had, really pretty much my essence as an artist on that album, and it's done quite well. But it's crazy, the song it's just out there. And I'm ever grateful that it's been doing so well over the years. And people go, "Does it ever bother you that people don't know who really did it?" And I said, "No, not really, because I've never been about fame. But I think it found its way in the best way. I mean, my artistry has always been a non-famous one, where people they go like, "Oh, who does that song in the movie No Way Home?" And and it wasn't a hit, but it was a well-received film, and my song was well-received. I mean, there's so many stories. Chasing Amy, my song in that, and yet I never got famous, and maybe I'm not meant to be that famous, and I'm okay with that, But it seems like as I grow older, I become more known. And I think my body of work, I didn't say this, but somebody said, "Your body of work is going to outlive you for just like the classics did." And I'm going like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Like Mozart." And I'm going, "Oh, come on, man. That's a little bit of a stretch, Then one person said, "Well, Miles Davis." I said, "I'm not a jazz." He said, "No, but we're using an example." Mm-hmm. And so, listen, all I know is in this lifetime, I just want to connect my art with people that feel it. And what more can you ask for in life? I mean, that's really the essence of being an artist anyway, So,
absolutely. And it is true that your legacy will live on for much longer than we all live here on this planet. That's the great thing about music, and the great thing about having something that's so remembered. And so you're fortunate to have that song, and it's great that song turns people on to your other music, and now to the new music, and as well as the musical. So I'm going to link all those things so that people can sort of go down the G. Tom Mac rabbit hole and get familiar.
And it is a rabbit hole. But what I am pleased to say is we have the single "Chasing Down Stars" and "I Can't Sleep" are now available. They are two songs from what will be "Don't You Forget About Me," the rather musical to the screen, which is the movie. And so, yeah, check those out. And there's a video coming out on both of them, directed by David Maresca, who's a wonderful director and quite cutting edge, and it's very well. Yeah, I'm just so delighted that he captured the essence of what I was looking for. And yeah.
Yeah, so a lot to check out, everyone. Thank you so much, G. Tom. I know you're busy working on the musical and that you'll go back to that right now. So I appreciate you taking a little time to talk to the audience. Thank you.
All right, mate.